Eventide, we began to fret. Although the sea was calm, as if oil had been poured on it. I sent a few swift skiffs there, and we soon found the boat drifting on the sea. There was no one in it, not a living soul. Vanished into the air. We don't know what happened. But there must have been fighting there. A veritable massacre. There were signs. What signs? The Witcher squinted. Well, the whole deck was splattered in blood. Gerard hissed and looked around anxiously. Zealous lowered his voice. It was as I said, repeated, clenching his jaw. The boat was splattered in gore. Length and breadth. No question that a veritable massacre took place on board. Something killed those people. They say it was a sea monster. No doubt. Sea monster. Not pirates? Asked Geralt softly. Or pearl diving competition? Do you rule out a normal knife fight? We do, said the Duke. There are no pirates here, no competition, and knife fights don't result in everybody, to the last man, disappearing. No, Geralt, Zellust is right. It was a sea monster and nothing else. Listen, now, no one dares go to the sea. Not even to the nearby and familiar fishing grounds. The people are scared stiff and the harbour is paralysed. Even the cogs and galleys aren't setting out. Do you see, Witcher? I see, Geralt nodded. Who will show me this place? Ah, Aglavol placed a hand on the table and drummed his fingers. I like that. That's Witcher talk. Getting to the point at once, without unnecessary chatter. Yes, I like that. Do you see, Druherd? Told you. A hungry Witcher is a good Witcher. Well, Geralt, after all, were it not for your musical companion, you would have gone to bed without your supper again. My information is correct, is it not? Gerard lowered his head. Zealous stared vacantly ahead. Who'll show me this place? Geralt repeated, looking coldly at Aglavol. Zellust, said the Duke, his smile fading. Zellust will show you the dragon's fangs and the route to them. When will you start work? First thing tomorrow morning. Be at the harbour, Mr. Zellust. Very well, Master Witcher. Excellent. The Duke rubbed his hands and smiled mockingly again. Geralt, I'm relying on you to do better with this monster than you did with the Shinaz situation. I really am. Ah, one more thing. Forbid any gossiping about this incident. I don't want any more panic than we already have on our hands. Do you understand, Gerard? I'll order your tongue torn out if you breathe a word. I understand, Your Grace. Good, Aglavol said, getting up. And I shall go. I shall not interfere with the ball nor provoke any rumours. Farewell, Gerard. Wish the betrothed couple happiness on my behalf. My thanks, Duke. Essie Davin, who was sitting on a low stool surrounded by a dense crowd of listeners, was singing a melodious and wistful ballad about the woeful fate of a betrayed lover. Dandelion, leaning against a post, was muttering something under his breath and counting bars and syllables on his fingers. Well, he asked, do you have a job, Geralt? Yes, the Witcher answered, not going into details which, in any case, did not concern the bard. I told you I smelt a rat and money. Good. Very good. I'll make some money. You will too. We'll be able to afford to revel. We'll go to Sidaris in time for the Grape Harvest Festival. And now, if you'll excuse me, I've spotted something interesting on the bench over there. Geralt followed the poet's gaze, but aside from a dozen girls with half-open mouths, he saw nothing interesting. Dandelion pulled down his jerkin, his bonnet over his right ear, and approached the bench in long, swinging strides. Having passed the matrons guarding the maidens with a deft flanking maneuver, he began his customary ritual of flashing a broad smile. Essie Davin finished her ballad and was rewarded with applause and a small purse, a large bouquet of pretty, though somewhat withered, chrysanthemums. The Witcher circulated amongst the guests, looking for an opportunity to finally occupy a seat at the table, which was laden with victuals. He gazed longingly at the rapidly vanishing pickled herrings, stuffed cabbage leaves, boiled cod heads, and mutton chops, at the rings of sausages and capons being torn into pieces, and the smoked salmon and hams being chopped up with knives. The problem was there was no vacant seats at the table. The maidens and matrons, somewhat livened up, surrounded Dandelion, calling squeakily for a performance. Dandelion smiled. Dandelion smiled falsely and made excuses, ineffectually feigning modesty. Geralt, overcoming his embarrassment, virtually forced his way onto the table. An elderly gentleman, smelling strongly of vinegar, moved aside surprisingly courteously and willingly, almost knocking off several guests alongside him. Geralt got down to eating without delay, and in a flash had cleared the only dish he could reach. The gentleman, smelling of vinegar, passed him another. In gratitude, the Witcher listened attentively to the elderly gentleman's long tirade concerning the present times and youth of today. The elderly gentleman stubbornly described sexual freedom as laxity, so Geralt had some difficulty keeping a straight face. Essie stood by the wall beneath bunches of mistletoe, alone, tuning her lute. The Witcher saw a young man in a brocaded waisted caftan approaching and saying something to the poet, smiling wanly the while. Essie looked at the man, her pretty mouth sneering slightly, and said several quick words. The man cowered and walked hurriedly away, and his ears, as red as beetroots, glowed in the semi-darkness for some time afterwards. Abomination, shame, and disgrace, the elderly gentleman, smelling of vinegar, continued. One enormous laxity, sir. Indeed. Geralt nodded tentatively, wiping his plate with a hunk of bread. May I request silence, noble ladies, noble lords, Gerard called, walking onto the middle of the room. The celebrated Master Dandelion, in spite of being a little bodily indisposed and weary, shall now sing for us his celebrated ballad about Queen Marian and the Black Raven. He shall do it at the urgent plea of Miss Viverka, the miller's daughter, whom he said he may not refuse. Miss God damn it. I apologize for fumbling my words. Miss Viverka, one of the less comely girls on the bench, became beautified in the blink of an eye. Uproar and applause erupted, drowning out further laxity from the elderly gentleman smelling of vinegar. Dandelion waited for total silence, played a striking prelude on his lute, after which he began to sing without taking his eyes off Miss Viverka, who was growing more beautiful with each verse. Indeed, Geralt thought, what whoreson is more effective than all the magical oils and creams Yennefer sells in her little shop in Vengerberg? He saw Essie steal behind the crowded semicircle of Dandelion's audience and cautiously vanish through the door in the terrace. Driven by a strange impulse, he slipped nimbly out from behind the table and followed her. She stood, leaning forward, resting her elbows on the railings of the jetty, head drawn into her delicate, upraised shoulders. She was gazing at the rippling sea glistening from the light of the moon and the fires burning in the harbour. A board creaked beneath Geralt's foot. Essie straightened up. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you, he said stiffly, searching for that sudden grimace on her lips to which she had treated the young man in brocade a moment earlier. You aren't disturbing me, she replied, smiling and tossing back her lock of hair. I'm not seeking solitude here, but fresh air. Was all that smoke and airlessness bothering you too? A little, but I'm more bothered by knowing that I offended you. Came here to apologize, Essie, to try and regain some chance of pleasant conversation. You deserve my apologies, she said, pressing her hands down upon the railing. I reacted too impetuously. I always react too impetuously. I don't know how to control myself. Excuse me and give me another chance for a conversation. He impetuously, God damn it. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really starting to fumble my words now. You can tell I've not practiced reading this at all. I will in a moment. No. Let me finish this chapter then. So, impetuously. Yes, I reacted too impetuously. I always react too impetuously. I don't know how to control myself. Excuse me and give me another chance for a conversation. He approached and leaned on the railing beside her. He felt the warmth emanating from her and the faint scent of verbena. He liked the scent of verbena, although the scent of verbena was not the scent of lilac and gooseberry. What do you connect with the sea, Geralt? She asked suddenly. Unease, he answered, almost without thinking. Interesting. And you seem so calm and composed. I didn't say I feel unease. You asked for associations. Associations are the image of the soul. I know what I'm talking about. I'm a poet. And what do you associate with the sea, Essie? He asked, quickly, to put an end to the discussion about the unease he was feeling. With constant movement, she answered after a pause. With change, and with riddles, with mystery, with something I cannot grasp, which I might be able to describe in 1,000 different ways, in 1,000 poems, never actually reaching the core, the heart of the matter. Yes, that's it. So, he said, feeling the verbena affecting him more and more strongly. What you feel is also unease. And you seem so calm and composed. She turned towards him, tossing back her golden curl and fixing her gorgeous eyes on him. I'm not calm and composed, Geralt. It happened suddenly, utterly, unexpectedly. The movement he made, which was supposed to have been just a touch, a gentle touch of her arms, turned into a powerful grasp of both hands around her very slender waist, into a rapid, though not rough, pulling of her closer, into a sudden, passionate contact of their bodies. Essie stiffened, suddenly straightened, bent her torso powerfully backwards, pressed her hands down on his firmly, as though she wanted to pull away and push his hands from her waist. But instead of that, she seized them tightly, tipped her head forward and parted her lips and hesitated. Why? Why this? She whispered. Her eye was wide open, her golden curl had fallen onto her cheek. Calmly and slowly he tipped his head forward, brought his face closer, and suddenly and quickly pursed his lips into a kiss. Essie, however, even then did not release his hands grasping her waist. and still powerfully arched her back, avoiding bodily contact, remaining like that. They turned around slowly as though in a dance, kissed him eagerly, expertly, for a long time. Then she nimbly and effortlessly freed herself from his embrace, turned away, once again leaned on the railing, and drew her head into her shoulders. Geralt suddenly felt dreadfully, indescribably stupid. The feeling stopped him from approaching her, from putting an arm around her hunched back. Why? She asked coolly, without turning around. Why did you do that? She glanced at him out of the corner of her eye, and the Witcher suddenly understood he had made a mistake. He suddenly knew that insincerity, lies, pretense, and bravado would lead him straight into a swamp, where only a springy, matted layer of grass and moss, liable to yield, tear, or break at any moment, separated him from the abyss below. Why? She repeated. He did not answer. Are you looking for a woman for the night? He did not reply. Essie turned slowly and touched his arm. Let's go back in, she said easily. But he was not deceived by her manner, sensing how tense she was. Don't make that face. It was nothing. And the fact I'm not looking for a man tonight isn't your fault, is it? Yes. Let's go back, Geralt. Dandelion has played 3 encores. It's my turn. Come on, I'll sing. She glanced at him strangely and blew her lock of hair away from her eye. I'll sing for you. So I'm going to take a wee break before I read part 4. I think I should take a few moments at least, and get myself a cup of tea or something, and give time for some reading of donation messages, if that's okay.
Casey, that's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Are you sure?
Oh yes, absolutely. And
You did an amazing job.
would advise you just come back and give me the other half tomorrow. I don't want to put too much pressure on, and I can tell.
I can do it tonight. Don't worry. I just need a cup of tea.
Well, I okay. All right. Thank you very much. But yeah, take
I will
a break
momentarily.
and recuperate, and we'll read some donation messages. And honestly, I'd like to chat with our guests for a little bit. So like,
absolutely,
get you a cup of tea, recuperate, and we'll have some more of that in a minute.
That was so good.
Hell yeah, that was lovely.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna have to read those now.
Isn't Casey's voice wonderful?
Right?
Yeah, the Witcher books are good as hell. The thing I was saying earlier is that they were published in like pulp magazines and short stories, where like a lot of the driving forces you need to get people to keep reading and be intrigued by your story. So like a whole ton of Sapkowski's short stories conspicuously start with like sex scenes or at least nudity being described, and then just like drop it and just like do the rest of the story, and it's really noticeable. And you're like, oh, you just wanted people to start reading.
Is that why the
chat
game
literally
thinks
mentioned that the opening sentence says breast like 3 different times in 3 different ways.
The opening short story of the first Witcher book, the first collection of short stories, is just like Geralt was in bed and the woman came in and they had sex.
Nice.
It was neat. Geralt said, "Hell yeah!" Like, yeah, but they're wonderful books.
I was gonna say, I hope "It Was Neat" was a direct quote.
But they're great books. Like they're really fantastic, and especially like they're very different things as well. The short stories are wonderful and well constructed and tell their own little things. Like the one we had last night about the Doppler is my absolute favorite because of just the simple way that it constructs otherness and then deconstructs it in a really fun way that at the same time, like a really thorough and moving way that at the same time is just fun and a neat little adventure. And then this one with its kind of examination of relationships and gender dynamics, you know, and it's neat.
It is neat.
It's good stuff.
Are they all short story collections? Because I
No,
had
the
assumed
first
that they
two
were
books
novels.
are, and then the rest are novels. And then the kind of midquel book that Sapkowski came back and wrote later, that is sort of between the short story collections and the novels, is called Season of Storms. Is kind of interesting because it's like an exact halfway between a short story collection and a novel. Like, a lot of stuff happens that's honestly quite disjointed. And there are definitely like overarching themes much more strongly than you have in short story collections, but it technically, yeah, like it's like technically neither. It's just very, very halfway and not one novel story and at the same time not perfectly episodic either. But it's great.
Very interesting style. Yeah.
Yeah.
It must all be translated from Polish too, right?
That's correct, yeah.
That's cool.
I
That is
think
cool.
the guy who translated The Witcher to English is called, I don't remember his first name, I think it might be David, but is called, his last name is French, so every single time it's like translated to English from Polish by French. It says that in the Audible book every time, and I'm like, oh, that's great. How's it really good?
I think I might have to head out.
Okay.
I just realised how knackered I was.
Okay. Well, Casey's voice was very relaxing, and
Yeah.
that was kind of the hope that it would be a
Yeah.
nice bedtime story for some people.
Yeah.
I'm currently cozy in a blanket, so I do
Hell
not
yeah.
blame anyone.
Can we
Very
read some
good
donation
cozy story.
messages? Can we do some donation messages? Because I know there were some donations while Casey was reading.
Yes, we have racked up a few.
Hell yeah.
Should we go?
So the
Go down
next
the
one
list again?
is from Val.
I would say Sarah should probably read that one.
Yes.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, okay. There it is. Val donated £1.69. Wait, there's supposed to be more to Hey Sarah, so I'm donating a tiny nice to inform you that apparently donation messages get cut off if you use an emoji. The rest was, my heart is still in Cal Anderson. Say hi to Sunny for me if you know her there.
Oh.
Yeah. This was somebody that I met in Chaz, and we connected over. They were a fan of my videos. One of the handful of people that I met there,
Oh wow.
who was like an IRL fan who like saw me and was like, "Wait a minute, I know you."
That's cool as hell.
And then we sort of connected, and they actually helped me get in touch with a handful of people who were more involved in like the running of Chaz a little bit, sort of, kind of, but
That's awesome.
it was a cool bit of connection, and yeah, so I appreciate Val's donations.
Maybe we should skip the Twitch comment until the end and then do the donation. Yeah. All right, I'll do the first one. RMRIC0, RM Rico, I guess, donated £10. If I'm not pronouncing it right, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
I think you got it.
Pounds for Pound Town. Wait, that's probably inappropriate.
Annie Vanderbert donated $4.20. Nice. A little closer to my immortal.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
It's on the way.
Cassie donated $29.26 and said, "Honestly, I could listen to Casey read for hours." Last dono for tonight.
Hell yeah. Honestly, I could listen to Casey read the phone book. She has a wonderful voice.
I
It
know.
is.
I just want to say, like, I really, really, really hope I wake up to find out that we've hit 40k in the morning, because I'm probably not going to hit it before I go to sleep. But I would also like people to hold off the starting of my Immortal until I'm awake, if that happens. Just because I really want to be there for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely reasonable.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time.
So as I said, I'm gonna jet off.
All right.
Again, thank you for having me. Sophie,
been
thank
great
you
to
for
have
doing
you.
all this. Thank you everyone that's donated. I'm a very sleep. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Nice hanging out with you.
Good night.
Right, and there are 2 more, I believe.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and Awesome Possum Blossom donated £15 and said we are valid.
Hell yeah, we are.
Which is true.
And
Okay.
John donated £10. Praise your album.
Nice.
Is that it?
I believe that's it. Yeah.
Oh, cool. What is the most recent movie each person in chat saw and really liked? Doesn't have to be in cinemas. Just any movie of any age.
I rewatched I'm Thinking of Anything this week, and I still think it's pretty good.
The
even if it's one of
transgenderist movie.
Kaufman's weaker ones, in my opinion.
That's interesting. Why do you think it's weaker?
I don't think he. I think it's one of the most interesting story structures that I've seen in a film lately, because it borrows a lot from films, in my opinion, in terms of structure, like Persona or 2001, where it's very ambiguous in terms of its story and how it jumps around in the story, and you're supposed to figure it out visually. And I'm not sure if he's as used to that style as he is to his more absurdist surrealism that he's more used to write. He's been more influenced from books like Kafka.
That's interesting.
And I feel like at times he gets a little too. I feel like the car scenes drag on a bit too long at times. So like it can be a bit. I think that he doesn't know how to communicate some of these scenes as visually as the style in the better scenes really communicate and hit you with. That said, it's still Kaufman. I still love it.
That's interesting to me because I found some of the car scenes kind of the best. I love the car scenes, so I'm kind of on it. Like honestly, I was from the trailer. I was like, it's interesting what's going on here. I assume, and I assume all the kind of main content will be when they're in the house or whatever, with probably some short, interesting car scenes between. And then when I watched it, I was like, fuck yeah, I love these car scenes. Fucking incredible, so good. And I was like comparatively underwhelmed by everything else. But like
Really?
overall, really loved it. But like I'm just saying comparatively because of how hyped I was for it. It was
Yeah.
the other stuff that
I think it's
didn't grab me as much.
With any other director writer, I probably would have been like, that was really, really good. And then with Kaufman, I'm like, it's not a masterpiece. He makes masterpieces all the time.
I think I would call it a masterpiece. I really think
I
it's
would-
quite wonderful.
I would call it a masterpiece. I also didn't like it very much. It's one of those movies like I watched it and I'm like, oh, I get it. Okay. I like it. There are people who know me and like know with the things that I say about movies a lot, who are like, oh wow, Sarah's gonna love this movie, and then I watch this movie and I'm like, I kind of like it when movies don't hate me. I don't know. I think Charlie Kaufman is somebody who has a disdain for the average film goer, and I find that respectable to an extent. But that's also I feel like there is this undeniable connection and attitude between Charlie Kaufman and Jean-Luc Godard, who is another filmmaker that everybody loves that I detest.
We've argued about this in the
And
past.
yes, we have. And I find that their attitudes towards filmmaking, it's like I hate the term elitist, but it feels elitist to me in a way that really kind of rubs me the wrong way. But I also acknowledge that like it's a really cool film in what it does, and I think that I don't view my perspective on it as universal in any sense. I didn't like it, but I also understand why people do.
That's
liked
totally
it.
fair. I totally understand.
It's-
I would.
It's funny that
speaking
you
of-
sorry.
You go.
I was gonna say it's funny that you bring it up because that was actually the last movie I saw that I liked. I watched it for the first time really recently, and my first thought was like, this movie's trans. I'm not really familiar with Kaufman. My understanding is that there might be a bit of
A
a
lot of his
trend
movies
there,
have
but I
themes
thought it
like
was
that.
funny that as soon as you said it, Sophie said, "Ah, the trans movie."
I said the Transist movie.
Oh, the Transist movie.
It's incredibly trans. Like it's just
My
like
return.
well,
It
it's
is,
a
yeah, for
debate
sure.
between the trans self and the egg self. Like very very over the top
Yeah.
explicitly. Can I hold on to
I-
any part of this former version of myself, or do I have to completely sever and get rid and end things in order to move on and be the best person I can be? Can I be someone who is simultaneously full of possibility, any career I possibly want to do, any hobby, any creative interest that I could possibly fulfill myself with, and also cling on to this person who is so limited and so pigeonholed into the expectations of his parents, of his circumstance, of his surroundings, who occupies his time with small talk and nonsense because he's uncomfortable with silences with himself. Could I possibly be this person and also be the person that I actually want to be? And the answer is no.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I liked it.
Yeah, my feeling on that particular reading is that it's really good and very much supported by the text, but and like the transness of a lot of Charlie Kaufman's films is undeniable.
Yeah.
But I also feel like there is an extent to which it would land a lot better for me if Charlie Kaufman knew he was trans. I don't know. There's sort of this is something that I've been thinking a lot about lately, where like there is this strain of I don't know if you know the comic Dark Science.
Yeah.
The creator of that, like a year or two ago, came out as non-binary.
Oh, that makes so much
And-
fucking sense.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
fuck.
And
Oh,
it's one of
shit.
those things where like that particular artist had sort of a reputation for being kind of an edgelord bastard. And a lot of that behavior recontextualized by gender, it doesn't become okay, but you understand it better. Like there is a sort of like, this is the behavior of a white cis man, and then that person comes out as trans in some form, and it recontextualizes things, and you start to kind of understand where they were. It like humanizes them, I guess. At least for me, as somebody who also used to be a cis white edgelord.
I completely get that. I
and-
do need to say though, like, I just feel an urge to counterpoint this, not just to play devil's advocate, but to play advocate for, some people who I know who like have more or less public profiles who aren't out publicly, and they I'm saying like were this 2000 and 2003 and you're like, or if this were 2002 and you were like, I think the transness of the Matrix is cool, I just think it would be cooler if they knew they were trans, right? Like it's like, okay, but maybe like and but that isn't the be all and end all of it. I'm just saying that it's a prime case ripe for death of the author. That's all.
Well, yeah, no, it absolutely is. And the thing is that I do think like there is a part of me that feels very strongly the ethos of the trans reading of the Matrix is there in large part because the Wachowski sisters have come out. And I don't know, I see Kay hitting the chat with like, my mind is fucking melted by this.
It's just it's a big deal for me.
Right.
Melted by
and
what?
and this is I assume by the writer artist of Dresden Kodak coming out as
right.
non-binary.
Yeah, I've got a
Um,
long history with their work, and I'm just dealing with it right now. Everything's fine.
Yeah. No, I mean, me and several of my friends had a big sort of like, oh my God, this makes so much sense moment. So I totally understand. I don't know how to square this circle, honestly. Like when it comes to how do you reappraise somebody's work, does the transness of a text become more valuable? Like, because this also gets into the question of, there are like Hollywood movies that do trans stuff, and it's like, well, if you don't have a trans person on, then is it okay? All this stuff just gets really complicated, and I don't really know how to square that circle.
I think that it is.
It's all very
just
subjective.
Okay by me if a creative like a writer director a writer-director Hollywood cis man who is incredibly insecure about his masculinity makes some of the best trans art. I'm genuinely okay with that. Like, I don't see any contradiction that needs reconciling, even, because I just think that's how gender works. I just think there's something that's incredibly true.
Yeah.
So I think, okay, so take for example, I'm gonna like, okay,
Destroy
take,
me
for
with facts and
example-
logic, please.
1 second, real quick.
Okay.
We have some very special guests lined up who would like to come in. So whenever that works, it would be good to make a little bit of space for them.
Ruh-roh, Raggy.
Oh yeah, I could cycle on out. I've been hanging out for a while. I got to listen to Casey Reed.
Keep Sarah
Last night.
around. I need to own her with facts
Sorry,
and logic.
not
But,
to, like what you're talking about is very fascinating to listen to. But
Okay.
I have a job to do.
okay. Yeah. Okay.
So
Cool.
I'm just popped back in to say I think I'm a lot more tired than I realized I was.
That's what I thought might happen.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And I definitely want to make room for people, but I would love to continue reading that for you at another time.
Thank you so much. That sounds wonderful.
I can speak for all of us.
Tomorrow
in
Go
saying
and get
we
some
all
rest.
Can't wait to hear it.
But I do think I should bow out because when I'm reading something, it takes up all of the space instead of when you have a few people chatting at the time. So I don't want to do that, especially if we've got more people.
Right. Yeah, I get you.
And as much as I'd love to continue, it's, yeah.
It's okay,
Hit me.
Casey. Your reading was wonderful, and I really, really appreciated it. And I'm looking forward to more at another time. Please go and rest.
Thank you so much.
Casey, get some rest.
I'll be hanging out for a while yet. Anyway, I think I need to wind down a bit.
Gotcha.
But thank you so much for asking me to be involved, and I'm so glad I got to do stuff with everybody. So I'm really happy and proud that I could do anything at all. So well done to you and to everybody else who's working really hard in the background. I want to give a very special shout out to Arkrat, who's been absolutely on the ball.
Andrew's been doing great.
My phone is blown up with notifications of Andrew just over and over again tagging me and sharing the stream every time there's a
Really-
change of guests. It's incredible.
Really on the ball there.
Yeah. Amazing stuff.
Give everybody give a praise Arkrat in the in the chat.
Let's have a bog champ in chat for
Yeah,
Andrew.
PogChamp.
Bog champ.
Big thank you to Nat and Andy and Joe, everybody who's been hanging out for all the day, and yeah, so
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Thank you, Casey.
before I go, is there anything you want to ask me or anything?
How are you so awesome?
Where can we find you?
Good question.
Yeah, where can we find your stuff? Where, like,
Oh, okay, yeah. You want me to give you a little give myself a little plug? Yeah, if you go to streamlabs.com/ThemerSophie/tip, that's where you can find me.
thank you. I'll be sure to check that link out. It sounds super interesting. I'm sure I'll find really cool stuff there. Thank you.
Yeah. I think I can probably plop that. Yeah, somebody's very, very kindly plopped that in the chat.
Wonderful.
If you want me to give myself a serious plug, it's Casey Explosion on Twitch and Twitter. And I've also got a Steam Curator page where I recommend a videos game. I believe I've recommended a few to Sophie before as well. I think
Absolutely. I keep
I
on
think I
ranting
might
and
have-
raving about how good
Casey,
good taste
yeah,
Casey
it's a gold
has.
mine.
I am yet to be let down by Casey's recommendations. And I'm talking about across genres, across aesthetics, across creators. She's just got She's just got the nose for video games. She just knows what's good.
I'll do a link there in the chat to my curator page.
Wonderful.
So, yeah. Well, that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Casey. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Oh, and trans rights.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Kay, if you're going to bow out, why don't you also plug your stuff? Tell us what you do and where we can find what you do.
Yeah, I make the YouTube videos. I do video essays about movies, video games, and sometimes British politics if I'm feeling very masochistic.
Truly
so
the worst topic on earth.
Oh, I know, it's a nightmare. I try to avoid it, but terrible things keep happening, sadly. Yeah, you can find me, my YouTube channel is called KN Skittles, and you can find me at Twitter at KN Skittles. And that's that.
Hell yeah.
Thanks for
being
having
here,
me,
buddy.
and have a good time, everyone.
Yeah, feel free to come by tomorrow if you have time. It was great to have you.
Awesome. All right. Take care.
Cool. So the thing I was saying just before you hit me with those guests is just that I think there's a commonality between like the gender experience, but really just the human experience is commonality, right? Like you can have just like a smaller version of something, right? That just is this impulse that's like, fuck, I feel this way really strongly. I don't feel like I live up to this, right? Then that's, you know, in Kaufman's case. And then he interrogates that so deeply that it means